I'm a fine arts photographer working with abstraction, and alongside the fine arts portion of my practice, I also enjoy the domestic side, the likes of portraits, families, and weddings, while in the past I've also worked a lot with studio lighting, stage setups, and even water. All parts of my practice rely on the technical elements, and this is what really draws me in. I do my best to make something come to life by using my camera, which is then supported by post-production. My work and practice currently revolves around exploring abstraction and its instinctual linkages to nature, which reveal our experiential relationship with the natural world and its delicacies. Presently, it exists in the digital and moving image, as well as the physical object in the form of a photo book, while incorporating specific techniques which both occur in and out of the camera. In the last year, my practice has interrogated the separation of physical layers in the imagery using the three-dimensional anaglyph combined with abstraction and the natural environment. The anaglyph being an early method of simulating and creating a three-dimensional image, but the eye is seeing separately, the left with a red lens and the right with a blue lens. The splitting of the layers and the colours, our sight is designed to work in unison. The anaglyph disrupts this, separated in two different lines of sight. By returning the imagery which exists in two dimensions to one with physicality, interactivity, movement and motion is created. And as a result of the abstraction combined with the anaglyph, my work aims to immerse, confuse, disorientate and transfer a sense of being overwhelmed to the audience, while never going past the point of being able to recognise the subject, which is nature. I feel the abstract element of my work and practice comes from a time where I was fixated and hung up about the technical perfection, and where perfection made up for a conceptual lack. And after beginning my photographic career being commercially trained and focused, it was only natural for me to aim for this technical perfection. After having broadened my photographic knowledge, I'm now at a place where I can combine the best of both the commercial and fine arts worlds. So the way I begin a project is usually as a result of an image or a technical idea, and more often than not stemming from either a mistake or a technical experimentation or an innovation that I've stumbled across. In my practice, an image or technique exists before a concept, and after mastering the look or style of an image, I'm then able to start delving into research and therefore developing a sound concept. Research for me starts by looking into influences such as Alfred Stieglitz, Jutta Barth, and Wolfgang Tillmans, and then from there developing keywords and phrases to then mould into a statement. And it's very common for me to end up in a research rabbit hole, going from artists and influences to books and articles or even interviews. And I've then realised after a few years of working by trial and error that if I initiate a concept before the imagery exists, I set myself an unrealistic goal which can then start the project off on a negative front. When it comes to any problems in my practice, it heavily relies on time, research and collaboration. If I find myself with a conceptual issue, I'll be discussing the options and possibilities with my peers, even if it takes a completely different idea to be thrown around for me to realise the next steps or take on the advice from my peers or mentors. Often my peers and mentors will have different and fresh avenues to look down in terms of resources and influences to pursue. If I find myself hitting in a technical or aesthetic brick wall, I'll return to the research, looking up visual inspiration or examples, referring to some of my favourite photo books, or even looking at Pinterest to determine what not to do even. If I'm struggling technically, whether it be in camera and post-production, I'll seek help or advice from the internet, via YouTube, forums, or even lynda.com, where it's usually in the format of some sort of tutorial or guided walkthrough. I'm then able to put this directly into practice and then use it as a trial run or a solution to my problem to sort of troubleshoot it. Often in my practice I'll have a personal problem with accepting my own work and doubting the quality of both the skill and the concept. In this case, I find myself stepping away from the work and distancing myself from it. I need time to incubate on it and come back and look at it with a fresh and accepting perspective. Experimentation is a large and crucial part of my practice. Due to the technical and niche nature of my work, experimentation is paramount. I've had to consciously experiment with my work and processes, and there's been some grey areas and foreign processes that I've needed to familiarise myself with. The combination of in-camera techniques such as the slow shutter, the full sun, the capturing of motion and the neutral density filters, and the outer camera techniques, the post-production, creating the actual anaglyph and splitting the layers of the photographs. I'm consciously altering the expected result that comes from my camera, adding the blur, capturing things out of focus intentionally, and then this method of practice has meant that I've needed to balance these variables. Too much light, too little light, too much detail and even not enough detail, and just capturing the right amount of motion. And this is all based on my camera settings, and obviously these factors then depend on the light. According to these variables, I've experimented with the time of day, the type of light, and the differences they all contribute. I'm then able to look back at the varying collection of tests and decide what was or wasn't successful. My current workspace is very much centered around my home, my bedroom, my desk, the kitchen table, and outside in the sun. I find that I'm not very good at working on the go. I need to be in a settled environment. I will write notes and to-do lists on the go, but working in a more communal environment such as a cafe does not suit my practice and workflow at all. I rely heavily on my more powerful computer in my workspace to process all my 3D work and moving images. I can sit there at my desk in a controlled environment testing the 3D effect, glasses on and glasses off. When I'm in the early stages of a project, my head buzzes with ideas, words, or techniques to pursue. More often than not, it'll be just as I'm falling asleep. I keep a pen and paper beside my bed, so when these thoughts come to me, I'm able to scroll them down with minimal effort. They don't normally make an awful lot of sense, but when they are written down, they are a trigger or a starting point for more things to come.